Sadiq, it's over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, wherever you are. Hope you and your families are all doing well and keeping safe. Thank you for blocking your time to attend our webinar today. I'm Sadiq Abdelmajid, the Managing Director of Pinter Pyramid Dubai, the HEQ Strategic Partner. Today's webinar is about how to embrace, engage, and emerge from crisis. Brought to you by Human Quality. Human Quality, or HEQ, is an HR and business consulting firm affiliated with leading international organizations such as Krempl Communications, DDI, or Development Dimensions International, and Harrison Assessments International as well. We support organizations and individuals across the MENA region through our offices in Cairo and Dubai, providing consultancy services, talent management solutions, talent mapping assessments, and leadership development programs. We are honored today to have 4 international speakers with us, sharing their ideas and experiences on navigating business through crisis. Let me start by introducing Stephen Krempl, who will be moderating the webinar, and will leave the floor to Stephen to introduce the other 3 speakers, Dr. Nick Horney, Scott Friedmann, and Jason Everett. Stephen Krempl is a speaker, author, consultant, and the president and CEO of Krempl Communications International. Stephen acquired his global perspective and unique style over 2 decades of service with Fortune 500 companies, which includes Motorola, PepsiCo, Restaurants International, Yum Brands, and Starbucks, where he was the Chief Learning Officer and Vice President of Global Learning in Seattle, Washington. By participating in this webinar, you will also be receiving one of Stephen's bestseller books as a gift. The book title is The 5% Zone. The book entails lots of visibility strategies that get you recognized and rewarded in any organization. Thank you, Stephen, for this valuable gift, and congratulations on the new release. Just the final points before I hand over to Stephen. To all participants, please feel free to leave your thoughts, comments, or questions in the chat box, and we will be addressing them by end of the session. Also, we will have a Q&A session by the end of the webinar, so if you want to speak directly to any of the speakers, please raise your virtual hand by clicking on raise hand icon, and we will try to accommodate your inquiries as much as we can during the time frame given for the Q&A session. And now, over to you, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Sadiq. Welcome, everybody. Good evening. It's about 4 o'clock in Cairo, and it's morning here in the US, where most of the speakers are. So I'm just going to share the screen for a little bit, for those of you who may realize when the speakers are sharing, you might want to hover over your speaker view so you can see somebody in full, but otherwise you'll see them in a small little icon there in the corner of the thing. We have 3 great speakers today. Dr. Nick Horney, you'll see he'll start on first, and then Scott Friedmann, and then Jason Everett will join us a little bit later in the session. We have great things. Most of you are, still in a lockdown, in between lockdown and slowly, gradually coming out of it. However, each one of them will have their unique perspective that will give you some ideas that will either help your organization or the people in your organization, get through this COVID-19 horrendous times that we've been facing, and get to the new normal whenever that is. So before I'm going to start, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Nicholas Horney. Dr. Horney is the founder and the principal of Agility Consulting and Training. And then since 2001, Nick has consulted with leaders to help transform their vision to action by anticipating change and building a more adaptive capabilities to become focused, fast, and flexible. We all want to be focused, fast, and flexible, though, especially in these times, right? Dr. Horney has been recognized as an expert in strategic agility by publications such as the CIO magazine and organizations such as the American Management Association, Canadian Management Center, Human Resource Planning Society, and the AMA of Japan. Nick, are you there?
I am here. I am here. Stephen, thank you very much. What a great opportunity. And I just did another webinar a couple of days ago, similar topic, and it had everything to do with how are we dealing with, whether you use the term of rebooting, restarting, reskilling in this disruption that certainly has been created as a result of COVID-19.
Great. Over to you. I think you have some great slides to share with us, I believe.
I do. I hope these slides are visible as we are looking.
Yep, looking good.
Okay, that's good. I thought it best to really kind of kick things off in terms of this new world of work. And so whether you call it the new normal or the next normal, whatever term that's being utilized right now, I'm sure that everyone is experiencing some aspect of this new world of work. And this is a perfect example of maybe we would have had a meeting and seen each other face to face and had been up close and personal, elbow to elbow, and being able to have a meeting in the way meetings used to be held. Part of the new normal, part of this next normal is virtual. And so to that degree, certainly COVID-19 is having a tremendous impact on the way work is getting accomplished now during COVID-19, but also as we plan through what is that new world of work going to look like? To what degree will we be doing virtual selling? To what degree are we going to be doing virtual leadership and virtual meetings, et cetera, will continue, and for how long? It will, in fact, replace a good bit of the way that work is currently being done. So hopefully we'll be able to have some level of discussion today to really talk about the disruptions that were leading up to COVID-19 and even subsequent to COVID-19 as well. So I kind of couch it in the terms of the new world of work. So with that, in terms of the new world of work, in terms of the things that are changing, I thought this kind of discussion really relates to everyone. And you can see the masks down that are part of the presentation as well. So part of this new world of work, as we start thinking about and have been in the process during COVID-19, how work gets done, the degree to which we meet virtually as we're doing right now, where it gets done. Many people are operating out of their homes, out of their cars, virtually on laptops. Various technology tools are enabling that. We happen to be utilizing Zoom in this particular instance, but there are a number of other technology tools as well. Who does the work? Is it full-time employees that we've always had, or are we also going to be relying on some folks from the gig economy, those people that are contingent workers that have the kind of skills necessary to enable us to move into the new world of work? Perhaps those are the people that have greater technology skills than even the full-time employees. And there's great emphasis being placed in a number of firms on reskilling, the degree to which we can really identify the kind of digital technology that's necessary to go hand in hand with the work that's always been done. And so what does the work? Is it robotics? Is it artificial intelligence, or the actual people themselves?
Nick, it's interesting. What makes this model unique? I see that agile model there up on the screen, and can your consulting, talking about being this virtual world, and training be delivered virtually though? Because I know all of this stuff used to be, face-to-face in a consulting mode. So what do you say about that? So tell us a little bit about your model and why it's so unique, and can this be delivered virtually though?
Okay, well, I'll answer those 4 or 5 questions that you packed into that that time
Sure,
frame,
of course.
as best I can. So I appreciate that. First and foremost, yes, this can be delivered virtually. We've been delivering, our services virtually for a number of years. We do a fair amount of executive coaching around how to equip leaders to become more agile and apply leadership agility in the world of work. Also, as you can see here, we utilize Zoom to deliver what used to be and can still be, but seminars that are done in person. There's the capability, obviously, to be able to deliver seminars virtually, and clearly there are others that do that the same. What is unique, and I think it's a unique characteristic of the Agile model, which again, remember, we go back now into 2001, 2002. And even the term agility wasn't being tossed around that much. Maybe a little bit around agile methodology was starting to get a startup then. Many in the audience have probably heard about, agile methodology, whether it be Scrum or some other technique. This is not agile methodology. What we're talking about is leadership agility, team agility, organizational agility. It's by looking at and equipping ourselves to be able to deal with the disruptions in the business environment. So leading up to this, we were doing a good bit of work with firms that were dealing with digital disruption and dealing with the gig economy of those that are contingent workers. And the actually in those days, and not all that long ago, think about January, February timeframe, there was a war on talent. And the question was, where do we find our talent? And much of the gig economy came as a result of being able to find talent anywhere. For those in the US, finding talent in India and elsewhere, literally all over the world, and the capability to do that. We find that the unique difference between the Agile model, which we introduced in 2001, is different than some people might think, well, it's just another change management model. Change management is primarily, and there are a number of models and focuses and approaches to change management, but generally they're thought of and utilized for a specific change. It might be enterprise-wide technology introduction like SAP, or it may be when a new CEO comes in, is introducing a new culture and maybe a new team, there's some change initiative around that. The Agile model was introduced as a way to build capability for all types of change, whether it's technology change, whether it's personnel change, whether it's cultural change, whether it's the introduction of the gig economy. So the idea is that it's about capability building for ongoing change, whether it be a COVID-19 pandemic or whether it be a smaller change event. It's about building that muscle, building that capability for ongoing change. And you and I think, would guarantee that there will be future disruptions beyond, COVID-19. There's no doubt about it.
Nick, so I had a question. Do you mind if I jump in? So how do I know if I'm a business owner or I'm a corporation, in the Middle East or something? How do I know if I'm agile or I'm not agile?
Well, if you take a look at the model, one of the things that that we have introduced is this framework and an approach to this. And there are 5 major characteristics of someone who is demonstrating leadership agility or an organization that's demonstrating agility. And let me step through those very, very quickly.
Great.
If you start, and it happens to spell agile, so we're fortunate at that. So let's begin with anticipating change. That is the unique characteristic of this model that no other model really has in place, or no other framework. It's about being able to identify the trends, the patterns, what are the things leading up to a disruption or whatever the event might be. So take COVID-19. How many of us really think through that? If we use the lens of the Agile model, how many actually anticipated some of the disruptions that would be coming as a result of that? Secondly, generating confidence is about not only your personal leadership confidence, but it's confidence that you have in your employees, confidence that you have in your suppliers, the partners that are working with you. It embodies employee engagement, clarity of communications, et cetera, but it's about the confidence that the extended team has in the direction that you're going. Initiating action is primarily about speed of decision making. Oftentimes, we will find when we do individual leadership assessment and we'll do organizational assessment that the two biggest challenges or barriers to demonstrating leadership and organizational agility are anticipating change. There's not enough time and focus on anticipating change. We tend to do more of the firefighting, have a firefighting mentality, being able to respond to change once it lands at our doorstep. The other is around initiating action, and the aspect of initiating action is around decision making. Oftentimes what happens is that we think we may be demonstrating agility, but we still are bumping up the decisions a couple of levels above those that are dealing with customers on a day-to-day basis. If your employees understand the vision and the direction and the culture of your organization, part of the leader's role is to also step back, coach them, mentor them, et cetera, but allow them to make some of those decisions. That's initiating action. The fourth component is liberating thinking. And that's really about building that environment, that culture that says, you know, I, as a leader, cannot make all the decisions. I can't come up with the new ideas, et cetera. You're out there working with our suppliers. You're working with our customers, et cetera. What are they telling you? What are you hearing, et cetera? And are there things that can be done in terms of continuously improving the way we deliver our products and services? And so liberating thinking is just that. It's building that culture, that environment that says, we need you. We need you as the workforce to come up with some of those solutions. And then finally, evaluating results is just that. We all have some form of measures and metrics, but it's really relying on, did we set good direction, and how are we providing feedback on those goals that we wanted to accomplish, et cetera? How do we engage our employees and our team on an ongoing basis? Don't wait until a formal review is done, but how are we providing that in terms of daily, weekly, et cetera, discussions? And those discussions can and should be occurring now virtually when everyone is secured in place, basically kind of locked up. And even after that, that kind of a culture of ongoing feedback is important. Think of this as a systems model in the sense that you can start anywhere on this, but it's important that all 5 of those characteristics be in place when you think about building the agility muscle. And some of that is illustrated in the book that I've got illustrated here called Focus, Fast, and Flexible. Think of it as a practitioner's guide to how you implement agility.
So I'm assuming you have some questions in that book to kind of let people kind of think through some of the specifics that you just brought up, right?
Oh, absolutely. There are questions, there are sample questions and illustrations in terms of what would you look for in leaders that would demonstrate leadership agility. Part of what we do too is part of our products and services. We offer that type of support as well. Online assessments, whether it be individual assessment, whether it be a 360-degree assessment where you get multiple inputs about how well are you as a leader anticipating change? Okay. How well are you, demonstrating, overall agility? And this, Stephen, you had mentioned before and asked the question, how do we deliver some of this virtually? And this shows, and I realize it's got a lot of material in this, but it's a virtual design. It allows us to be able to do this utilizing Zoom, be able to utilize COVID-19 as a case in point of a just major disruption, and allows us to go through, in essence, what could be referred to as an after-action review. Let's take a look at what went well, what didn't go so well, where are the gaps, and then looking at that through the lens of the Agile model. What did we do to anticipate change? What did we do to generate confidence, et cetera? That's part of the process. It gets embedded, in the virtual nature of it. Smaller groups are formed so that, in fact, they work on specific things that are done at their companies. And then also there's a self-assessment of each leader's leadership agility. What did they do? What did you do as an individual leader to anticipate changes as a result of COVID-19? generate confidence, et cetera, with your team. So it's a way of having both a focus at an individual level, leadership agility level, as well as an organizational agility level, so that companies can start planning, what do we do as we're starting to think about coming out of COVID-19 lockdown, et cetera? What are those things that we did well, didn't do so well, and what do we need to be doing in planning for the future, because we know that there are going to be other disruptions that are coming up as well.
Wow. Hey, you know, Nick, can you provide an example of an organization that successfully applied? Oh man, you got another slide here. You know,
I predicted the question. You know, I anticipated change.
Yeah, we want some real stuff here, man. Okay.
There's real stuff here. Yeah.
Yeah,
For the past 5 years, we've been working with Turner Broadcasting, and you can see some of the brands that are part of Turner Broadcasting. By the way, too, it was acquired by AT&T, so now it's called Warner Communications. Okay. But for the past 5 years, we've been working with them, and you can see that Turner Broadcasting represented CNN as part of Turner. Those are the brands, PBS, TCM, et cetera, many of the brands that are represented under that. So Turner, 5+ years ago, really was wrestling with, we knew that digital disruption was really creating some havoc and some challenges for the way it ran its business. Part of the way that they wanted to do that is they adopted the Agile model into a framework for a 3-day seminar for all of their high potentials. And each year, for the past 5 years, they would have 40 of their high potentials, mostly senior directors and vice presidents, that would be in this 3-day program. Again, the program, the content was organized around the Agile model of anticipate change, generate confidence, et cetera. What was really powerful about this design is that we also, Agility Consulting, also equipped and certified their internal consultants at Turner Broadcasting to utilize and become coaches utilizing the Leadership Agility Profile 360 assessment, which they did for all of these high potential participants in this program. They would then provide the coaching for those participants at an individual level. What were these leaders doing well in terms of anticipating change? What are some of the things that they could be doing to improve, et cetera? Once that was done, the coaches continued working with them, and then 6 months later, each of these high potentials represented a reasonably large business unit. Some maybe about 50 personnel, some up to 100, 200 personnel. And then within those, we administered the organizational agility profile. Same factors of anticipate change, generate confidence, but the focus was on that business unit, their interpretation of what the business unit was doing well at anticipating change and generating confidence, et cetera. So the leader that participated in this high potential program 6 months earlier, who had gone through coaching and was working on their own personal leadership agility improvements, now is ready to facilitate this organizational unit level assessment of organizational agility profile. So that's how Turner really leveraged both at an individual leader level, leadership agility, and also took advantage of the same framework, same model, to have all of the business units using the same model, same framework, to go about the transformation of Turner to becoming more agile as an organization. And that did also help facilitate the acquisition by AT&T as well.
Wow, so it really forced the leaders to live it and then make sure the entire organization did it though, right?
Absolutely, and it was done business unit by business unit. So it wasn't a forced fit, yeah, but it was a common framework that allowed the business units then to work within their own constraints, their challenges, et cetera, but still using the same framework of what can we do better to anticipate change? What can we do better to generate confidence, et cetera.
Oh, great. Well, I'm not going to ask too many more questions because you give us some final words here, though, Nick, on this whole idea and how we can get through COVID-19 and this time that everybody's facing.
Yeah, I think that, and that's true. Everyone is facing, COVID-19 and has been impacted both personally, professionally, et cetera. And we all know that, and we've all been in this together. I think the real crucial thing is how do we prepare ourselves and our teams, our families, our organization to be able to not only deal with this new world beyond COVID-19, this new world of work, a lot of it is virtual, et cetera, but how do we build capability that says, okay, now that we're 6 months after COVID-19, how do we continue building that agility muscle? How do we use a framework like this, like the Agile model, to build capability that strengthens our capability to deal with other disruptions that are going to be coming our way? Hopefully they're not pandemics like this, but there will be other disruptions, and how do we prepare ourselves to deal with those?
Well, thank you so much, Nick. You've given us a lot to chew on in the 20 minutes that you've had, and
sure.
I think I encourage anybody, if you want more details, go look at the model and just do an assessment, or go to the book. I'm sure there are plenty of questions and assessments in that book as well. And hopefully someday, Nick, maybe you'll be doing a virtual program in the Middle East or something. So maybe, Human Quality Consulting will consider that. So if you stop sharing, thanks you so much. And we're going to shift gears here to our next speaker. So if you have any questions for Nick, please write it down somewhere. And then, keep that and think about it, because we're going to have our next speaker, who is Scott Friedmann. So let me just do a little bit of an introduction for Scott, and then he'll probably be bringing up his own slides and stuff. So Scott Friedmann is a speaker and author with a sense of humor. We'll hope to see that soon. He's the past president of the National Speakers Association in the U.S. and co-founder of Together We Can Change the World. It's a nonprofit organization empowering less fortunate children and women in Southeast Asia. For over 30 years, Scott has been traveling around the globe, sharing practical ideas on employee engagement, customer experience, and creating a happier, healthier workplace. Scott is the author of 4 books, including Celebrate, Lessons Learned from the World's Most Admired Organizations, and A Celebration a Day, 365 Ways to a Happier, Healthier Workplace. Scott, I don't need any more introduction. Tell us what we need to do to get through this thing with a little bit of humor.
Thanks, Stephen. If your life is crazy and you know it, clap your hands. I think I heard some clapping. Yeah, life is crazy right now, right? And depending on your circumstances and your perspective, impacts the story you tell yourself about this crazy pandemic. So with your permission, I want to have a little bit of fun today. What do you think? Yeah? Laugh a little bit? Wonderful. Because laughter is good for you. It has no calories, no caffeine, no cholesterol, no MSG, no preservatives, no salt, no sodium, no sugar. And when you laugh, so much of you has a good time. So let's laugh a little bit along the way. Okay? Fantastic. Neuroscientists remind us that we are put here on Earth to minimize danger and to maximize reward. We are really put here to happy dance. But then stress, pressure, COVID-19 sneaks in and ruins our little happy dance. So what is the answer to all this pressure or stress, anxiety that we may feel on any given day? Well, I think it's vitamin C. Vitamin C as in celebration. Your daily dose will make you more joyful, more grateful, more excited about life. And that will surely keep us in step with our community. As Stephen mentioned, I wrote the book, Celebrate Lessons Learned from the World's Most Admired Organizations. followed it up with a celebration a day, 365 ways to a happier, healthier workplace. And in the book, we define celebration as acknowledging all that is good. The good work that you do, the people that you do it with, the people that you do it for. It's when your to-do list becomes your done list. It's acknowledging the little and the big milestones along the way. You see, celebration is really just an attitude. It's a philosophy about life. It's the lens through which we see our world. And if we can change our lens, we can change our language, we can change our life. You see, the way that we label our language impacts how we think and act. Look at the difference between the word deadline and finish line. I don't want to achieve any goal with the word dead in it. Yeah, we finished right on time on Tuesday, but in the process, Muhammad and Erman are dead. That's a pretty heavy price to pay for success, right? Finish line implies that there's going to be some kind of celebration when you get to the end. It's focusing on the feeling we will have when we come to completion. It's that excitement, it's that passion, it's the feeling of accomplishment. If we focus there, we don't get so stuck in what's not getting done. And then the key is to celebrate those little milestones along the way. So change the word deadline to finish line and see if you notice a difference about how you approach the task. I think you will. When we were writing the first book, we did interviews, surveys, research in 35 different countries. And 3 things came up as enhancing the employee experience. Number 1 was gratitude. Gratitude simply is a thankful feeling for the life that we have and those that we share our lives with. Next was play. Play is living in the present moment. It's being able to let go of the negative emotions, of the worry, the anxiety, the pressure we have, and to truly live in the state of play or the state of being. It's positively live in the moment. So important today. And then third is surprise, the element of the unexpected. The reason celebration or surprise isn't effective in the employee experience today is because it becomes institutionalized. It becomes stale. So it's catching people doing something good and cleverly rewarding them. It's finding out what intrinsically motivates people and giving them more of what's highest on their joy list. So if you look at those 3 words, gratitude, play, and surprise, and you take the first letter of each word, GPS, sure enough, gratitude, play, and surprise comes to GPS. So my recommendation to you is not to get out of bed in the morning without turning on your GPS. I mean, sometimes it's easy, right? But other times, and maybe now it's a little bit tougher, I think, right? That's when we need to hear that lady's voice in our mind. Some of us know her as Siri, and what does she say?
Recalculating.
Sure enough.
Turn left ahead, and you will have reached your destination. Unless you want to continue being a stupid jerk with a crappy attitude, in which case your destination will be a crappy life. Good luck with that.
Okay, so Siri has a little bit of an attitude, but she makes a good point. No, crappy attitude, moving forward, crappy life. Attitude of gratitude, happy life. So this is really the foundation of the books, the Celebrate books. How do you keep the GPS turned on? So the universal sign for play is the old hang loose. Give me a little hang loose, if you would. In Hawaiian, we call this shaka. It means chill out, relax. I will take care of you, you take care of me. Live life with more gratitude. Live positively in the moment. Honor people with what's highest on their joy list. Okay, so that becomes your challenge of the day, is how do you keep on your GPS? So give me a little GPS. Hey, I see someone not doing it. Come on. I know it seems silly because you're there in front of your computer, but I'm not moving on until we do it. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. The answer is GPS with the motion, like you really mean it. Fair enough? Beautiful. Here we go. Too much stress? GPS. Life's a mess. GPS. COVID. Duress. GPS. All right, we'll play with it a little as we go along. All right, so let's look at gratitude. Gratitude needs to come from the heart and not the head. Abundance flourishes in a grateful heart. I believe the single most important determinant of your future well-being is how well you practice gratitude. You want to get rid of any negative emotion in your life, just switch and turn on the gratitude. I want you to ask yourself one question when you wake up in the morning. All right, so before you feel stressed about anything or thinking about the times that we're in, the question is, what do I have to be grateful for today? You know, look for the blessings of COVID-19. Go through the lessons. Think about family. What is it that you're grateful for? When you count your blessings, you have so many more blessings to count. And then before you go to bed, do the same thing. It'll help you rest better. It'll program your subconscious mind. Your immune system will become stronger simply by practicing gratitude and writing down in a gratitude journal. Mary Laverty, good friend of mine, when her kids were growing up, before they would start dinner, she would ask the question, what's the best thing that happened at school today? So her kids knew if they wanted to eat, they better answer the question. And she taught her kids to look through the eyes of positivity. What a great model to live our lives by. When we start a meeting, how about just sharing, celebrating something good that's happening? Too often we get into a meeting, we talk about all the things that don't work. Energy is sucked out. What if we just started by sharing, not a long time, just something that's working, something that we can celebrate? It's a great way to start off a networking reception and to go just find out what people are excited about. It's a wonderful way to celebrate holidays when we're together with relatives. Same thing, the best of the best. There's a Harvard psychiatrist who created an app called Track Your Happiness. You can check it out on the App Store, and as well as the Google Store, or however you get your Google. I'm an app guy myself. I'm an Apple guy myself. And as you can imagine, the things that would cause you to be happy would be spending time with friends and family, going out to dinner, exercising, good music. But the reason I share the study with you and the app is because what the Harvard psychiatrist found out, it's so much more important how we evaluate the experiences of our lives. The stories that we tell ourselves, that is what determines happiness. If you look through the eyes of anger and resentment at your present circumstances and the past, that shows up as anger, resentment, and fear in your future. If you look at your current circumstances and the past through the eyes of gratitude, that shows up as hope and faith in your future. So you want more happiness in your life? Bring more gratitude in your life. Simply in any situation, any challenge you may have, as we get back to work and you play with Nick's agility model and you run into some things, simply ask yourself the question, what is the gift? If there was a silver lining in all of this, if there was a lesson to be learned, what would it be? If you look for the gifts, we find the gifts. We can bring more of that happiness into our lives. There's an old Buddhist prayer that states, grant that I may be given appropriate difficulties and sufferings on this journey, so that my heart may be truly awakened, and my practice of liberation and universal compassion may be truly filled. For if we think we have no struggles in life, or if we have no struggles for life, then we have no opportunities for genuine growth. How many of you think you have too many opportunities for genuine growth during all this? Yeah, for sure, right? Yeah. But you see, it's not happiness that makes us grateful. It's gratefulness that makes us happy. Give me a little GPS for gratitude, if you would. Thank you very much. Next is play. Play is accepting your current reality. All the expectations and demands and the craziness that we're going through right now, all the heartache that we may have in our lives, and still be able to activate the old GPS. We interviewed Scott Bemis for the first book. Scott Bemis is the president and publisher of the Denver Business Journal. Scott had a little ritual. Before they would hire anybody at the Denver Business Journal, he would have a little conversation with him in the getting to the last interview. And he would say, if you come to work here at the Denver Business Journal, can we make an agreement that this will be the best job you've ever had? I mean, how would they even know, right? So he's looking for their attitude, their intention, how they approach work. You've heard hire for attitude. You can teach the skills along the way, right? Right. So anybody who said, yes, I can see that happening, then they were still candidates for that opening. If not, next. And then whoever he hired for that opening, on the first day of work, he would remind them of their conversation. He says, okay, now it's up to us. How do we create it so it really is the best job ever? He said, I am going to be accessible. I am going to be resourceful. I am going to set you up to win. So we will have conversations. We'll get HR involved. We'll make sure that we come as close as we can to making sure your employee experience is as positive as it can be. And that's the key today. Everybody is going to be at a different emotional state as we create this new future of work together. They have to feel that there's ownership, that everybody is in this together. And that's how Nick's agility model will work, because there's trust, because there's communication, and employees know that you care. So make sure that you come from the place of, I love my job. How can we make sure that people really feel that? I believe that play starts with a good sense of humor. How many would say you have a pretty good sense of humor? Okay, how many used to have a good sense of humor? How many have never had a sense of humor, but you think there's still hope somewhere? See, a sense of humor is more than the ability to tell jokes, because anyone with a sense of timing and a memory can tell jokes. True test of a sense of humor is your ability to take yourself lightly during tense situations. It's the ability to find something funny in your predicaments. If I wanted my dad to lose his sense of humor, all I would have to do is bring home my report card. 7th grade, worst report card ever. My dad beats me to the mailbox, pulls out my report card at dinner. Scott, what is this? I said, Dad, it's one person's opinion. Must we discuss it? Yes, I think we must. How come Andy doesn't get C's and D's on his report card? Andy was one of my best friends growing up. I could never quite measure up. I said, Dad, you can't compare me to Andy. We are so much different. Oh, are you? How are you so much different? I said, Dad, Andy has very bright parents. It took me a long time before I could sit down and laugh at that. But we have opportunities to lose our sense of humor every day. More so now than ever if we allow ourselves, right? Siri, what could possibly cause this illustrious group in Egypt and the Middle East, what could cause them to lose their sense of humor? Siri?
Running out of patience, running out of money, running out of hand sanitizer, wondering when school will start up again, wondering when I can come back to work, wondering when this will all be over, being stuck in the house for what seems like eternity, trying Nick's agility model and not being so agile, not being able to enjoy the less crowded streets of Cairo, the guy at the supermarket coughing on the last head of lettuce, hoping some employees won't come back to work, trying to learn to cook and having to eat my own meals, fear of getting infected, fear of infecting others, fear of losing my mind, the speed of the internet being painfully slow, coming to the realization that I married the wrong man, not knowing if I have a fever or hot flashes, feeling anxiety, staff doing inappropriate posting on Facebook, traffic in Cairo, people violating my space, my mask not matching any of my wardrobe, wishing I could trade in my family for a new puppy.
Okay, so there's a few things that may cause you a little bit of stress. And that's why we need to find humor. For the last 3 or so years, I've had a group called Celebrate at Work. And I've shared ideas from my book and the research I've done and chatting with organizations and what they do and a little bit of humor along the way. But now I try to share as much humor as I can because we need it. Just a few examples, and I encourage you to join the group, a few examples of in the last few weeks of some of those postings. 2020, written by Stephen King, directed by Quentin Tarantino. Anybody, your Zoom room look like this today? Social distancing myself from the refrigerator so I can flatten my curve. Government reopening guidelines. I know this is how it's been in the US. How was it there in Egypt? I'm having a quarantine party this weekend. None of you are invited. Aww. And then some more positive things. Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It is about learning to dance in the rain. So true. Tibetan proverb, the secret to living well and longer is eat half, walk double, laugh triple, and love without measure. Great advice. All right, the highest form of humor is the ability to laugh at ourselves. The lowest form is making somebody else the target of the joke. But if we can laugh at ourselves, we will never cease to be amused. We'll always have something to laugh at, right? Jack Welch, CEO of General Electric, who passed away not long ago, he was always asked how he created this amazing learning environment at General Electric. And his response, I told my workers to take their work seriously, but to take themselves lightly. Some more great advice. So the question is, two important questions. One, have you decided you want it to be fun? I know it doesn't seem like we should be having fun now as we're going through and we're losing people all over the world, but this is when we need humor more than ever. It's okay to give ourselves permission to take time out and to have fun and to enjoy our lives. We don't want to go through life like this kid, right? So then the question becomes, what are you doing to make it more fun? What are we doing to make it more fun? We need to get creative. A company called Design Force in Colorado. Every Tuesday, the company provides a couple heads of lettuce and everybody brings in their own favorite ingredients for that salad. Then they have Toss It Tuesdays. And they know in that 1 week from Tuesday to Tuesday, they need to come up with one idea that will better the employee experience or the customer experience. Some great ideas. And what a wonderful thing to do some version of this today so that we can navigate this new abnormal together, right? I think so. Linus Pauling said the best way to come up with a good idea is to come up with lots of good ideas. It's a moving target. How many have seen The Shawshank Redemption? Great movie, right? Two main characters, Morgan Freeman, Tim Robbins. Morgan Freeman is Red, Tim Robbins is Andy. As the movie gets on a ways, Red and Andy are having a heart-to-heart conversation in the prison yard where most of the movie takes place. Red is sharing his fear of the future. He's been in prison 40 years. He's up for parole for the 3rd time. He's scared to death to get out. It's crazy. He doesn't know what it's like out there anymore. He's lost all hope. Andy turns to him and he says this. He said, it all comes down to a simple choice. You either get busy living or you get busy dying. You see, there's so many ways we can approach as we come out of COVID-19 and start work again. We can fear it. We can ignore it. We can deny it. We can just accept it. or we can anticipate it. We can imagine it. But the best way to predict the future is to create it by making choices, learning from our choices, and making new choices. Give me a GPS for play. Is looking for the humor. It's finding the positive. It's be positively in the moment.
This is your pilot speaking. My name is Adrian Oberhensli. I'm working from home today.
Okay, surprise. That's kind of fun. Surprise, the element of the unexpected. The key is to lift them up, not to let them down. How can we bring more value into people's lives? How can we positively surprise them when we catch them doing something good? This is the Taj Samadra Hotel in Colombo, Sri Lanka. Had the great fortune speaking there a few years ago, and I check into my room and I see this at my bedside table in a frame. This is me and 8 kids that have been rescued from Myanmar, now live in a home that together we can change the world, built in Luang Prabang, Thailand. I'm thinking, how do they even know about Together We Can Change the World? How do you find out about anything today? Instagram, Facebook, do a little Google search, right? Wow, I am so impressed with this hotel now. No matter what happens, in my experience, I'm gonna love this hotel because they've created connection. They've gone deep with my emotion, because to find out what people truly value and to give them more of that, like this for me, that's the way you create true connection. So I started the mugshot surprise, and I put I find photos off of Instagram and Facebook, right click and send it to a service, and you can put it on t-shirts, on mugs. I have had more fun with this. This is my friend Deb. Husband next to her is Steve. That's her daughter Sarah and Eric. That's Sarah's wedding day. Wow. I'm looking at that photo. I'm like, that's a great photo. That deserves a mug. So sure enough, I put it on a mug, and there we are. Deb and I are in a meeting in Colorado, and Deb is drinking from that mug. Finally, she realizes what's on it. She screams. I go, what? She goes, look at this mug. That's Sarah's wedding. The nerve of the photographer to use for promotional purposes, Sarah's wedding. I go, Deb, maybe it didn't happen just like that. All right, have some fun with it. Why not? You know, it's a great way, photos, and to be clever, doesn't cost a lot of money, makes a huge difference. You see, the quality of life is determined by the quality of our relationships. So as we get back to work and in your responsibilities, and as you look at being more agile, the key is don't focus inward, but focus outward. You see, Luciano de Crescenzo said we're all angels, but with only one wing. And only by embracing each other, we fly. Never forget how many people you help to fly. Thank you very much. And Stephen, I want to offer any one of these 3 books. These are my last 3 books. For anybody that writes me at scott@scottfriedman.net, you can see the spelling down here on the screen, scottfriedman.net. So scott@scottfriedman.net, just ask for 1, 2, or all 3 books. I will send you the electronic copies just for being part of today. Stephen, thank you so much for inviting me.
Hey, thanks very much, Scott. Scott here. So now I'm going to ask Siri a question. Siri, what do you think about Scott? He is great. He is wonderful. He is funny. Shaka, man.
Thank you.
For most of you who've at least listened to Scott for the last the last 20 minutes, couple of summary points. The difference between deadline and finish line: gratitude, play, and surprise. All right, very important. And then just ask yourself the question, what do I have to be grateful for today? And then right at the end, you have to decide if you want to be fun. All right, so thank you very much, Scott. So far, we've covered 2 of the 3 speakers. We've had Nick Horney, Scott Friedmann. So one gave you a big overview of how to do, agility in an organization through these times. Scott on a more personal level and how you get your teams to have more fun. And he gave you some examples of some of the people he worked with, including that hotel, and how you connect with people. Very interesting. And now we're going to have my good friend here, Jason Everett. So let me just sprint here. So as I'm reading here, I think Jason's on. Jason, you can come on with your video.
Yeah, man, I'm hanging out. I'm ready to rock.
All right, you're ready to rock. Okay, so I have to do the introduction here, Jason, and then are you doing slides or are you just going straight though?
Dude, I'm going to share my screen, but I'm going to just do some flip charts. So we're going to make some magic happen today.
Okay, very good. So over the past several months, Jason Everett, the person right there, has stepped up as a leader to help thousands of business owners to stay in business, maintain their teams, and even gain market share during this pandemic. I want to hear about that.
Yeah.
He has worked directly with 4 of the top 10 global beauty brands, including L'Oreal Paris, Redken, Shiseido, Coty Bare Minerals, and many others. His electric personality and speaking style has allowed him to become one of the most sought after live and now virtual event speakers. Please welcome my friend here, Jason Everett. But Jason,
dude,
before you start, can I ask you a question?
You may, absolutely.
Okay. It's my understanding that you have retained 100% of your usual clients through this pandemic, which is, with some of them remain closed for at least 90 days or so because, that's the nature of the business. Can you please share with us what it was like and what you learned from this whole event?
Yeah, well, first of all, Stephen, dude, thanks for having me on. It's a huge honor to be able to be a part of this with you because you are providing people with what I believe is hope. I mean, when you take that as an aspect of what people have in their day-to-day lives and try and figure out what do people need more of, I think it's hope. So thank you, Stephen, for having me on. And I will definitely be willing to share all that stuff with this group and hopefully make today freaking amazing. Does that sound good?
Good. Carry on.
All right. So guys, I know a lot of you guys have had your cameras off, which is kind of creepy for me because I can't tell who's excited, who's sleeping, and who's driving in their car. But I want to open up the chat for you guys and make this event a little bit more exciting. So do me a favor. And in the chat, I want you guys to type in, I just want you to type in the chat, what is your job title? I'd love to know. What is your job title? Type it in the chat. Go find the chat button and hit the chat. Type in whatever your job title is. I'd love to know kind of who's on the line today as we're going forward because here's what I want to find out. How many of you realize, as you're figuring this out, how many of you have realized that the number of changes you have had to deal with in the last 90 days has been greater than some of the changes you've had to deal with in the past 3 years? Right? And if that's you, if you've had to deal with more changes in the last 90 days than you have in the last 3 years, for crying out loud, do me a favor and say me or say me, if it's been that many more in the chat. Because I just have felt, and I don't know about you, Stephen, but man, dude, I feel like every single week of this pandemic, I have lived about a year's worth of my life. Like, I don't know, like my gray hair is not catching up with me, so that's a good day. But I feel like I've had to deal with so many changes, so many issues, so many problems that my life has become like on fast forward.
Totally.
Right? And do me a favor, you guys. I saw somebody do it. This is so good. I'm super excited. Naveen, what's up, Naveen? Do me a favor, guys. If you can turn on your camera, I don't care where you are, if you have makeup on, if you have makeup off, if you've never worn makeup in your life, you're driving in a car, would you please flip your cameras on? Because I would love to see some of your friendly faces that are on with me right now. Because I'll tell you what. There was a little, a story from somebody. Yeah. What's up, guys? Good to see you. Oh, see, now this is becoming alive. This is becoming electric. Oh, I love it. Do me a favor, guys. Keep turning on your camera. And some of you guys, again, dude, Eamon, what's up? Abel, what's going on? Nicholas, dude,
good looking people,
by the way. What's that?
good-looking people.
I know, these are some good-looking people. Rachel, Naveen, there's Maggie. Somebody, yeah, you guys, so good to have you guys on. And for those of you guys that are not on, I'm just going to assume if your camera's not on, it must mean you're in the bathroom. I'm going to be really honest here and say that must be what's happening if your camera's not on. So do me a favor, turn your cameras on, so I'd love to see you. And here's what I want to say. As I go through today, yes, Steven's right. I work in a very at-risk industry for what just happened. Okay, so if you think about this for a second, is that I work in the salon and spa industry. And inside the salon and spa industry, literally 100% of my clients were completely closed. In some cases for 30 days, some cases 60 days, and in some cases their business was completely closed for over 90 days. Give me a big fat thumbs down on the screen if that would be a terrible day for you. If you had to close your business and have no income for 90 days, give me some thumbs up on the screen. I want to see your thumbs. I really can see you now. So this is where you actually group participation here. Give me a big fat thumbs down if 90 days of your business being closed. Come on, guys. I want to see your thumbs. I want to make sure they work. I want to see what's going on. So yeah. Everybody's got thumbs down. So here's the problem, right? Is as businesses were closed for over 90 days, one of the things that I had seen over and over and over again is that people started to panic. Give me a hand up on the screen if you saw people in your area panicking as the pandemic, or panic-demic, as I like to call it, came about. Because initially, when all these things came out, it was basically like, we all may die, we just don't know when it's going to happen. That's literally what came out. And all of the information on the news, in the media, became these scare tactics. And I don't want to get into the politics of what the news did versus what everybody else did. But I had to make a decision. And the decision I had to make was, I'm either going to panic or I'm going to pivot. How many of you had at least one moment where you panicked during this entire pandemic? Give me a hand up on the screen. Whether it was panicking because you now had to have your children at home with you that are not normally home, you weren't sure if you're going to have to lay people off, you weren't sure if you were going to have some hard conversations. How many of you at least had one moment of panic? Give me a 1 or give me like a 10 if you had 10 moments of panic. I want to know what it was for you, okay? So here's what I want to say. Is that we made the decision really early on, and I'll be really honest. I had one moment that I literally said to myself as I was shooting videos, because I shoot and produce videos and training programs for people all over the world. And I had a moment where I said, I don't really know. I don't know if our clients are going to make it through this. I don't know if they're going to survive on the other side of it. Literally within 1 week, all of my clients called me and said, Jason, we had to lay off every single one of our employees, and I don't know when we're going to open again. I mean, a lot of you guys are HR consultants and managers. Like, maybe some of you guys had to do that. If you had to lay people off, would you do me a favor and say layoffs in the chat? Because I don't know about you, but laying off 100% of your workforce for an undetermined amount of time can be one of the most scariest things you have to do. In fact, some of the businesses literally sent an email and just said, sorry, we're closed until further notice. And that's a painful moment. And I had a moment myself, where I was sitting around, probably because I was watching too much news. By the way, reduce the amount of news you watch in your life will be greatly different. I had a moment where I sat down and I kind of was feeling sorry for myself. And I said, I don't know if I have it in me to get to the other side of this pandemic, whatever the other side of this pandemic is. And I said to myself, I got to do something to mix it up and to change something. And I learned something a long time ago that I kind of like smacked myself upside the head. How many of you have ever learned something, but then didn't really learn it until later? Like 3 years later, you're like, you know what? Somebody told me that, but I never did anything with it. Give me a big hand up on the screen if that's the case. If you learned something and then later had to apply it to your life, give me a hand up on the screen, okay? So I did that. And one of the things that happened for me is I drove off in my car, I went to shoot a video, and I said, look, you either can feel sorry for yourself or feel sorry for others, or put yourself into this. Do me a favor, take out a pen, an Apple Pencil, whatever you got, write this down. You can either feel sorry for yourself or you can get into service of others. Did you catch that? Hopefully you did. Somebody write it down. If you're not writing it down, then clearly you have a photographic memory and you'll never forget anything that I say for the rest of your life. My guess is you're probably going to need to write this down, okay? So grab your pen, write it down, or just pretend and look down. I love it. I think Muhammad is like taking notes on his actual phone, which I freaking love. Muhammad, you're the man. Yeah, dude, I love it. I love it. I love it. So put your notes wherever you got to put your notes. Tattoo it on your arm if you need to. But what I realized is I can pivot or panic, or I can feel sorry for myself, or I can become in service. And what I decided to do, and I'm going to share with you guys 5 steps you can take no matter where you are in pandemic. Because I know for most of us, we're still trying to navigate through the process. I'm gonna give you all 5 steps that I've got. But I decided to go into service. And so what I decided to do is I literally decided with our salons from all over the world, I said, I'm going to do a webinar, a video webinar conference line just like this, a video chat just like this with every salon owner in our entire program every day at 6 a.m. And we did a 30-minute to 1-hour video chat every single day with them live to help them navigate the pandemic. I don't know about you guys. I don't like getting up early. Give me a thumbs up if you're a morning person. Give me a thumbs down if you are not a morning person. Morning person, not a morning person. Morning person, ooh, got lots of morning people on here. That's pretty good. I like that. That's awesome. For the rest of you guys that are still on, you're on quiet with your camera, do me a favor and type in morning person or say evening person. What is it for you? Do me a favor, type in the chat. I want to know. You guys type in the chat, figure it out. If this is your first time on a Zoom video thing, tap the screen, type chat on the bottom, and just type in, are you a morning person or evening person? Yeah, Sally is an evening person. Nesrin is an evening person. Annie is an evening person. See, all the evening people have their cameras off. They're already in bed. I knew what was going on. I knew what's happening here. So here's what I did. I jumped into service. I literally started doing a 6 a.m. call every single day. And we did over, I think it was over 67 calls every day at 6 a.m. for every one of our clients. And I brought in some of the brightest people that I know on planet Earth to help serve them and support them through the pandemic. And I literally went from running 7 trainings a month to running 7 to 10 trainings every single week in order to help serve the clients that we worked with to help them navigate while their businesses were closed. Okay. How many of you would not want to run a call every single day at 6 a.m. for the entire workforce that you work with? Give me a hand on the screen if you're like, you know what, not my jam, not my thing, not what I want to do. How many of you would do it? Give me a thumbs up if you were like, no, I would do that. If I needed to do it, I would do it. Yes. See, I love you guys. Yes, I love it. The people who have their cameras on know what's up. And by the way, those of you guys that still gave me a thumbs up in the Zoom with your camera on, even better. So here's what I want to say. There's a couple things about what we did, and I want to share with you what they are so you guys can take some notes and you can have some opportunities. Also, I want to find out from you if your business has been negatively impacted by this lockdown and by the impact, like financially impacted, emotionally impacted, spiritually impacted, do me a favor and say negative in the chat. If you've had some sort of repercussion that's not been positive, do me a favor and type in negative. Just do me a favor. Type in negative into the chat. And even if you're on video, you can type in negative, or you can give me a thumbs down. Like if you've had something that's negative that's been happening. Yeah, almost every single one of us has had something that has been negative for us during this entire process. And you know what? I think that while there's negatives, I think there's been a lot of positives that came out of this, because I look back at this and go, you know what I think? Just my own personal thought, okay? It's just me. I'm a experience junkie. I don't know about you guys, but I'm an experience junkie. So when Steven said like, hey, do you want to go do an event with some crew in Cairo? I was like, yes and double yes. Because to me, one of my greatest things I love to do is travel around the world. And like, through Zoom, I at least get to travel to you guys in Cairo and hang out. And who knows, maybe one day I'll get to actually travel to Cairo and do an amazing event there. But I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world. I have been to Japan. I've been to Tanzania, Africa. I've been all over Europe. I've been to Dubai, and I've been asked to speak in some amazing places. But they are all about creating experiences. And what I know about experiences is that experience changes people's lives. Has anybody ever been skydiving before? If you have, do me a favor and type in skydiving. I've been skydiving, paragliding. I've driven rally cars on racetracks. I have done some just ridiculous things. In fact, I'm doing an event. I do an event every year called High Octane Adventures. And this next event that we're going to do, we're actually going to take people to go drive tanks on a private course and go and do a whole bunch of really cool activities on this private course, because I feel that adventures unite people, right? Adventures unite people. And the reason why I say this is that here's what I think about this pandemic, is that I think never before in human history has the entire planet been through a shared experience. Just think about that for a second. Like, you guys are in Cairo or wherever you are in Egypt, or maybe in some other country. And if you think about this, is that when the planet goes through an entire experience, does that not make you and I the same? Does that not mean that that Mina and I have been through a very similar experience where, like, if you look back at this 10 or 15 years in the future and we say, do you remember we all went through the pandemic together? It will be the most uniting thing that has ever happened on planet Earth. And I had this like realization. I turned it around and I said, you know what? This is one of the best things that will ever happen, because we now, as an entire global unit, as humankind, as the human race, we've been united by an event. We will all have a story. We will all be able to talk about it. We will all remember our experiences, because you know what? As events happen in other parts of the world, as you guys have had some very big issues with, I know, with people not wanting to travel, because I've been dying to go to Egypt for a long time. And then you hear something like, you know, there's these coups and there's these challenges and there's all these issues. And I go, man, does it really make sense to travel to Cairo? And you guys might have something that exists in your area that doesn't impact me. We might have something here in the United States. Like, I live in California where we have earthquakes, and sometimes that impacts us locally. But never before have we had something that we've all experienced at the exact same time. And I don't know about you, but I actually think that's really special. If you think that's special, do me a favor and comment in the chat, special. Because I think that this is one of the greatest times in history that they will write about for hundreds of years, is this moment in time. And you either step up and become the leader that you deserve to be, no matter what your job title is, or you hang out and wait for it to blow by. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to hang out, wait for anything to blow by. So I'm going to give you guys my 5 tips. If you want my 5 tips, do me a favor and hold up your hand on the screen. Give me 5 fingers if you want my 5 tips, or type in the chat, just the number 5, totally fine. I'm going to give it to you. And Steven, I'm going to share my screen here. This should be able to rock. And it says there's somebody waiting to jump in the room. I don't know if I'm an admin to be able to do that, but if you want to pop them in.
Yeah, we'll let them in.
Cool. Thanks, man. I like that Steven's like got the massive control. He's like, we will let them in.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Thank you. All right. So here's what I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to give you guys my 5 tips. You should be able to see my screen now. It's just black right now. That's how it's supposed to work. But I'm going to give this to you. I said that you can either panic or you can what? Somebody unmute and tell me what I said. You can either panic or you can what? I'm going to give you a clue and type it up on the screen. Pivot. Thank you. Yeah, you can either panic or you can pivot. We're going to talk about how do you pivot and what do you do. And this is exactly what I learned. These are my 5 lessons from pandemic that I think will be really, really helpful for you guys, and hopefully be able to still be applied in what you're doing every single day to help you to pivot what you need to do in your day-to-day business. Okay. So number 1 for P is you've got to be able to when something ridiculous happens, and I say ridiculous, just meaning what we just all are going through at the moment, is you got to be able to protect and secure what's important. I don't know about you guys, but there are so many people that now have had to decide, like here's how I look at it. We have had to have some of the most insane and the most intense conversations ever because of the pandemic. You know, small businesses were not important until the pandemic. Salons, hair salons. In the US, we had everybody getting toilet paper from stores, toilet paper and paper towels from stores, and it was sold out for months and months. And the second run that happened in the United States was hair dye and hair supplies. Maybe that's not the case globally, but literally that's what happened here in the United States, is that people realize that when your hair grows out for 3 months, when your gray hairs are showing, when you can't go and get your hair cut, you don't feel like a human being anymore. And so we actually got national news coverage out of talking about when hair salons open, because I work with so many salons in the beauty industry and talk about how their businesses were closed. So it really became important for people to start protecting and securing what's going on, meaning people started asking us questions like, well, how do I save for a rainy day? How much money do I need to have in my bank account in order to do this? What is my plan if I can't run my business virtually and we have to do porch pickup for products and services? What is it that I have to do in order to protect and secure what I already have? What is your plan? Because I want to say this too. Man, I didn't know if I was going to sneak all this in, Stephen, but I want to say this. If this same thing had to happen next year, how would you be prepared for it differently? And I hope this doesn't happen, but who knows? Maybe we come September, come October, come November, all of a sudden we have a second wave of this. What are you going to be prepared for? How will you be prepared again in case it happens? And nobody has ever gotten upset about preparing and having something not happen, but people get upset when you don't prepare and something surprises you. So remember, what can you do to protect and secure what you have, protect and secure your team, protect and secure their finances? Are you educating everybody that works with you to make sure that they understand how to save money, how to properly budget, how to make sure they're ready to go in case something like this happens again? What are you doing to protect and secure? Huge thing. Next up, what are you doing to inspire to action? The thing that I noticed about a lot of people is that some people just went into, I called it bunker mode. Do you guys know what I mean by bunker mode? Give me a head nod if you know what I mean by bunker mode. It's like everybody kind of went in their own house and they like put up their walls. Like I literally, and I don't know if you guys know this, but in the United States right now, literally in almost every major city, there are protests, there are riots, and there are burning things to the ground in the United States. Did you guys know that? I don't know if you guys are familiar with what's going on. I don't know how much is hitting, you know, some international news for you guys, but we went straight from pandemic to global human rights issues with a war on racism in the United States. And so, you know, what used to be something that was like, look, you know what? We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about religion. We don't talk about money, and we don't talk about race because it's not polite. But you know what happened is COVID-19 brought all of these things to the light. And we said, we now have to talk about some of the most important issues that are stopping us in our day-to-day life. And what's happening is people are being inspired to action. Lockdown created action be taken on more places. Businesses had to take action. Individuals had to take action. People are now saying, what are you inspired to do? So who are you bringing into your companies to inspire them to take action? Are you inspiring them to stay in bunker mode, or are you inspiring them to take action and start securing their future and creating their future by doing it? Give me a thumbs up, by the way, if anything I'm saying is helpful at all. The 4 of you guys that are hanging out with me still on video, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. But yeah, this is awesome. And if this has been helpful so far, type in the chat helpful, okay? The next thing I want to talk about is this is probably the other and most important lesson that I got out of the entire pandemic so far. And by the way, I know it's not over. I just want to say that I think there's so many lessons that will still to come from this. But Stephen is a great example of this for me. Is that the variety of people in your life have become the new currency. Did you guys hear me? The variety of people in your life have become the new currency. You know what? During this pandemic, I have called in every freaking favor I have on planet Earth. I've called every friend of mine. I said, would you be willing to do this? Could I do an interview with you? Could I talk to you about this? Like, I literally, and I said this at the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't realize what was going on, but our world actually had to get smaller in order for us to all get bigger. Did you catch that? Our world had to get smaller in order for us to get bigger. So what I mean by that is I've actually done more speaking engagements in the last 90 days all over the world than I had done in the previous year. And I speak a lot. I jump on planes and I fly all over the world. But you know what's crazy is I can do this event with you guys, and in another hour do another event in Peru, and another hour do another event in Japan for hundreds or thousands of people like that because of this ability. And I gained back all this time. You know, a lot of people were busier than ever during the pandemic. But if you think about it, I didn't have to jump on a plane. I didn't have to spend 3 days in transport to get to where I needed to go. And now I can serve more people. So I've actually served almost 10 times who I would normally serve in the same amount of time because of the variety of people around me who've been able to connect me with other people. So remember, people, the variety of people around you have become the new currency, and the more people you know, the more gifts you have to give others. Right? So as you're rallying your teams and getting people around you, who can you reach out to? Who do you talk to? And your relationships have become currency. The next one I want to talk about is this was the other lesson I learned that was massive. You've got to be ready at a moment's notice to over deliver. Like, I know this sounds crazy and people always talk about this, right? Is like, you know, don't just manage people's expectations, like over deliver. But you know what? The businesses who over delivered, because I have some companies that I've worked with, like my gym, for example, that I work out at, I have not heard from them in 90 days. Not a word, not a peep, not a anything. They just vaporize. They're not even a part of my life anymore. And then there's other businesses that while they've been closed have literally phoned me 5 times to check in. They've hosted virtual events, virtual parties. They've been doing things to make sure that I stay in relationship with them even while they're closed, even though I can't physically go into their location and build a relationship. I'll give you an example. One of the salons we work with, we've been encouraging our salon owners to make sure that every single week they have meetings with their staff. They have virtual meetings. They have virtual happy hours. We shared with them how to do all kinds of fun things online and maintain a level of interaction at a very high functioning level. And they over-delivered to every single one of their staff. Even though they were closed for 90 days, every single week they had an activity online to maintain relationships with their business team. I talked to another salon recently who said that literally they sent out an email to their staff and said, sorry guys, we're gonna be closed. And then they just found out a week ago, after 90 days, they can reopen. And they sent an email saying, hey guys, team meeting on Tuesday. Which would you like to be? Maintaining that team and staying in a relationship and maintaining it, or hoping that everybody will come back exactly the same? And little secret, nobody's coming back from this thing the same. Our needs are different, our wants are different. So you gotta be ready to over deliver at a moment's notice to your team. And the last thing I just wanna say to you guys on this that I think will be extremely helpful is, this is probably one of the biggest lessons that I learned of the whole thing. And this might be a little strange to say, is that my biggest stress point, and the biggest stress point that I saw from business owners, is that they didn't know when the pandemic was going to end. They didn't know when their business was going to go back to business. And so there was like, have you ever played a game? Like, would you play a game, football, soccer, baseball, volleyball, whatever game, cricket, like whatever game you play, would you ever play a game that they just said, hey, we're going to start this game today at 3 o'clock. We don't know when it's going to end. It might end in 3 weeks. We're not really sure, but you just stay till the end of the game, okay? No way. That game would suck. It would be terrible. It would be a horrible game. You would never want to play that game. But guess what? We're all playing a game without an end in sight. So one of the biggest lessons that I learned out of the pandemic was make sure that you put a timetable on whatever game you're playing. So every day at our 6 a.m. call, we would say, what'd you do yesterday? What's something that made you happy in the last 24 hours? We played 24-hour games and we played 7-day games. And the game was not beat the pandemic. The game was beat today. The game was beat this week. The game was beat this month. And we played very short games because your mind is trapped if there's no end in sight. You have to give yourself an end to the game in order to play. Because if people don't know the end of the game, they will refuse to play. So if you have people that you're trying to get in a space of like getting them excited to come to work every day, and you just go, well, we don't know when this is all going to be over, we'll just let you know. That's the most dangerous thing you can do for somebody's mind because they don't see the end of a game. So guys, I don't even know how I'm doing on time, Steven, but I've got one more thing I'd like to show, if that's okay. How we doing on time?
One more thing, and then we've got to wrap it up, though.
Okay. Guys, do me a favor. Type in the chat, what's been the most valuable thing out of the entire time I've been talking? Do me a favor, type in, what was your most valuable lesson that you heard from me? Maybe it was one thing, maybe one simple thing that I said was worth your entire webinar time today. I don't know. What was it for you? I don't know how to say this name, but Yin, I'm going to say, I'm going to guess. Pivot was one of them. Nicholas said panic or pivot. Merriman said family. Nesrin said pivot. Rachel said pivot. Samusa said pivot. Order, deliver, and service. Pivot, 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 pivot. Everybody's loving the pivot. Okay. So last thing I'm going to do, Steven, I'm going to see if I can pop this up here. I'm going to play a quick video. I don't know how well it's going to work, but if you guys have been on about 10,000 Zoom lines like I have been, hopefully this will be entertaining for you, and then I'll wrap it up and pass it back to Steven. Here we go, Steven. Check us out. I put this together, and I wanted to be able to share it with you guys because I've been on a ton of Zoom lines, and this has been my entertainment lately. So here you go. Hopefully you'll find some laughter in here. Here we go. Can you guys see it okay, Steven? Some of you guys are guilty of these. right now. That's it. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me and being a part of this. And like I said, never before in the human history have we all experienced something amazing together to be able to bring us closer together. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and being a part of this today and being a part of what we do. Hopefully I can answer some questions and help make it awesome. Do me a favor, type in which one you're guilty of in the chat, and I'm going to turn this thing back over to Steven. Steven, thank you so much, man.
Hey, thanks so much, Jason.
My pleasure, dude.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you got some things. Pivot is definitely one of the things that stands out here. Protect and secure, inspire to action, variety of people, over-deliver, and timed games. And talking about timed games, we said this would last an hour and a half. There are 2 more minutes to the hour and a half to the 90 minutes. However, I think many of us here are going to be willing to stay. So I'm going to put this little QR code for you to download the book that was promised that Siddiq said in the beginning. And then if you have any questions for any of the speakers, whether it's Scott, Jason, or Nick, please type it into the chat, and we can see if anybody has any time to answer this. We may stay over for a few minutes. And then we'll see if we can be respectful of your time. Okay, I'm going to take this off in 15 seconds. Questions into the chat. Or
that how do you really self-talk yourself that, hey, I'm going to make it, you know what I mean? Like, look, I know I'm going to make it. And not let disappointments kind of like set you back from not moving forward, you know, like just make you just sit there, damn it, I'm just going to watch TV today. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going
to moderate here a little bit. So Scott, you might want to jump into that, and then Jason or Nick later on, right? So otherwise everybody...
Guys, yeah.
For me, I think the quickest way to get me out of a funk, if I'm in a funk, is the gratitude. Is to immediately go to, okay, what am I thankful for? What in my life is going on that's good? And then I'm fortunate I'm involved in this Together We Can Change the World, and I think about the people in these developing countries that are really struggling a lot worse than I am, and how lucky I am to have the life that I have. And so gratitude immediately gets me out of the funk. But Dale Carnegie said that the best way to get out of anything is to take action. So just move forward, take some kind of action or gratitude. Those are my 2 pieces of advice.
Thanks, Scott. Jason.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Scott said. 2,000%. Gratitude is huge. I already mentioned earlier is like, instead of feeling sorry for yourself, get into service. But I also want to say this. The power is in your routine. The power is in your routine. Meaning, what do you, like, I'm just going to sell myself out here. Like, I get up, now it's out of the pandemic, I've got up every day at 5 a.m. I do what's called breath work, where I literally do breathing exercises every morning for 30 minutes. I do stretching. I do a daily gratitude journal, and I do meditation. And like, I know, like, before I did this pandemic, like, I was like, oh, that stuff sounds like a bunch of garbage and I'm just not about it. But being really honest with you, that's the only thing that made me get through this thing in a positive mindset, is when I realized I was slumping, I just doubled down on my routine. It's like, if you think of it this way, if you're trying to lift something heavy, do you get mad that you don't have muscles, or do you go get muscles so you can lift something heavy? And so this is mental muscles and mental fitness to make sure that you're ready to go. And studying, like, from these other amazing speakers like Nicholas, Scott, Stephen, is study is part of that, but also adjusting and maintaining your routine is a critical part of making sure that you can handle it. Otherwise, I don't even know where I'd be if I wasn't getting up meditating every freaking day, because I'd be spinning out on, onto the street in panic mode. So that's my thought. Nicholas, you want to weigh in on that, man?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think it's echoing some of what Jason, you said. Scott, you certainly covered as well. It really is, part of it is also taking the time to reach out to people, whether you know them very well or not, or old friends that you haven't spoken to in months or years, and rediscover, where they are and some of the happiness, some of the challenges, but it's in the rediscovery process and reacquainting yourself, old friends, old colleagues, etc. It is tremendously rewarding, and yeah, we're all in this thing together.
Yeah, man. And all I'll say is if you have a little small community together, any small good news, just spread it so people hear about it and they feel good, and just uplifts, you know, the person who's sharing it and sometimes the person who's listening to it. And I think that's the reason why, you know, some of, you know, Jason, you have meetings and stuff so people can share, right? So anyway, great question. Any other question?
Great question.
I'd like to thank very much all the participants and our amazing speakers, and thank you very much, Stephen, for making this happen. And we are looking forward for more events. And if any of the participants want to know more details about any of the topics discussed, just drop a line to Human Quality and be happy helping you. Thank you very much. We'll be sharing the recording. Thank you.